When I was in first grade, my mom was driving me home from school one afternoon, and all of a sudden I said, "Mommy, I made up a poem." And then I proceeded to say, "There are 4 seasons in each year: winter, summer, spring, and fall. Which one do you like best of all?" "I like winter. That's when the wind gives its pleasant call." She asked me if I would repeat the poem, and I did, and she wrote it down. And my mother asked my father if he would print some of my early poems on the letterpress in his high school classroom. My father was a high school printing teacher. I knew that somebody was going to publish me because my father had already done it. I try to find historical subjects that have not been treated at all in children's literature, or have not been treated the way that I want to approach the subject matter. And I try to find subjects that are relevant and have themes that are universal enough that children can identify with the story, even if they didn't live through that time period. You know, I want to write a picture book about the Greensboro sit-ins, for example. Grade school kids did not participate in the sit-ins. So what I had to do was create a character that young people could identify with. She could experience the sit-ins through other people. And I gave her 2 college-age siblings who could actually participate in the sit-ins, and through them she experienced the sit-ins vicariously. I want them to ask the question that they often ask: did that really happen? And I want them to be appalled, and I want them to say, you know, why did it happen? My mother-in-law went to a Rosenwald school in Caswell County, North Carolina. Mr. Rosenwald was amassing, you know, quite a bit of money as a retailer, and he asked Booker T. Washington what he could do with his money to help the community. And Booker T. was an advocate for literacy, and he said, you know, why don't you build some schools in rural areas? And of course, Booker T., you know, wanted the schools to be for African Americans. Some ended up being for whites as well. Somehow our state wound up with 2,500 of 5,000 plus Rosenwald schools. I have roots on Maryland's Eastern Shore, and I had written a poem about Harriet Tubman for another poetry collection that I've had published called Remember the Bridge. But she was such a hero of mine that I had written a story about her for a storytelling festival. It dawned on me that the story should be a children's book. There was a 7-year process where I was probably rewriting this book, submitting it to one publisher after another, eventually landed at Disney. And Moses has become my most popular book. It's my New York Times bestseller. It won a Caldecott Honor for illustration, as well as the Coretta Scott King Award for illustration. And what those awards mean is that the book will probably never go out of print. So after I wrote Moses, and you know, Moses was so successful, I decided that I wanted to write a young adult book. And it dawned on me that maybe I could write about Billie Holiday. It is, I think, the book that I was born to write. When Becoming Billie Holiday was recognized with the Coretta Scott King Honor for writing, that was, you know, that award was all mine. So that has to be the one that I'm proudest of. I have about 40 books that have been published so far, and I've got a couple more books in the pipeline at publishers. I'm working on a few projects now, and I don't know how I find the time to do it all. I'm a professor at Fayetteville State University, and I teach children's literature, adolescent literature, and some professional writing courses. I present at conferences and at public and private schools across the country, but I was born to write, so I must fulfill that. Poetry makes music with words, and that is the message that I try to convey to kids when I share my work at schools across the state and across the nation. I want them to, you know, to get infected with the musicality of poetry. I mine the past for family stories, fading traditions, and forgotten struggles, and that is my mission as an author. My success here has really been, you know, beyond my wildest dreams, and North Carolina has really embraced me, and I'm so grateful for that.